In the process of growing in the prophetic, you may have noticed times you're like, I knew I heard God, but then something completely different happens, and you're like, what was that? And one of the things that commonly happens when people are just starting out growing to the prophetic is they will genuinely hear from God, but they'll misapply and misinterpret what it's all about. So in other words, they've been listening to their gut, they've been listening to the Spirit of God within them, and they hear, boom, right on point. And then they switch over to their brain, trying to figure out what it applies to, and boom, immediately they're wrong. And because when you mix the two, that's where you get into trouble. And so what do? Applying the word works in the same way as receiving the word. It's like an internal compass where you pay attention down at a gut level. You're like, is it about this? And you're like, I don't know what it is, but something just ain't right at a gut level. But it's learned to pay attention to that. And then when you hit it right on the money, you'll be like, ding, 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 ding. That's it. Some people like me, they call that an aha moment. Other people say it stood out to me, or jumped out to me, or I had a revelation, or clicked. There's several, you notice when I'm doing this a lot, it clicked. There's several ways of saying the same thing, but be careful with that, because you can genuinely hear God, but you could screw it all up by trying to make it fit into something it's not. And I know even in my own life, I've done that before, where I heard God, yet I misinterpreted it, tried to make it fit. It's just like taking a puzzle and trying to force those pieces in there, and then it all kind of goes down the tubes. And sometimes I misinterpreted that experience and said, well, it was God's will, but I wasn't able to accomplish it. And that gets into a real messy situation too. But, it's keep your eyes on Jesus. He's the author, and he's the finisher of your faith. Don't put your eyes on your own faith and your own ability to carry it out, or have faith to carry it out. Put it on Jesus, and that good desire that he has placed within you will come to pass. And what's not evident of him, as you turn towards the light of his truth, that thing's going to be made known. And if you don't hang on to it, it's going to be a painless letting go. However, if you hang on to it, it's going to hurt. So yeah, it's better just to admit your mistakes now versus hang on to it with all your might. Like, no, I knew that was it. But I'm like, well, we just proved you wrong. But it doesn't mean that you're gonna go to hell just because you missed your prophetic word. It's, guys, just dust off your knees, get at it, and go for it again. Because God is honored when you keep on getting up and you keep on seeking him. And, after a while, it'll be easy not just to get the accurate word, but get the accurate interpretation too with it. And you'll get used to practicing that way. Every time you'll start hitting it. Boom, 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 boom. And I know, sometimes even there's been physical language barriers before in the prophetic. And so one time I received a word from a lady from Guam, and I could sense by the Spirit that it was deep within me, she's speaking from heaven. Yet, I did not understand what she was trying to communicate and had the revelation. And so I literally, right after she prophesied to me, I raised up my hand and I said, Holy Ghost, help the interpretation. And man, boom, because I was open, expectant in that moment, I got it. And then I repeated back to her afterwards. I was like, when you gave me that prophetic word, it sounded totally wrong, but I knew that it was God, and I just wasn't getting it because there was a language barrier. And I said, here's what God showed me when I did this thing right here. And I said, was that what you were hearing? And she said, yeah, that was it. So God was already communicating, but the problem was just that I didn't understand, language barrier, etc. And So take home lesson is learn to listen from here. Don't get fooled by here. Don't get fooled by here. And then you won't get fooled, period. Because it's the Spirit of God that's able to recognize truth within you. Keep your opinions neutral. Heaven doesn't have an opinion. It just has truth. That's a narrow way. That's not just about being born again, but that's how you walk your Christian walk. And as you start to get revelation, it'll be like tuning your instrument. So if you got a guitar that's just out of tune, it's like God tuning you, and then when you get to that frequency, it lines up with heaven, and boom, harmony blends. It's of the same resonance. And so that's walking the Christian walk, and it's learn to turn away from those things where you might not know why it doesn't hit, it doesn't resonate right, it doesn't sit right, but accept it. And as you turn towards that light, revelation starts to come. And the problem is a lot of people, they want to understand it first without surrendering first. And when they surrender first, then understanding connects. And then that's just like links in with interpretation of prophetic words, application of prophetic words. Not trying to make it come to pass in the flesh, not applying it to something that it was never intended for, but applying it accurately, walking out accurately, and doing it in the Spirit. All right, that's a short word, but that's what I got to share today.